Home Depot announced their earnings mid-week. And big picture, we'll start with the monthly chart. We can see that we have this huge resistance band at $340. And we can see that for the month of August, price gap down, went higher to go lower. And right now, the monthly candle is showing indecision between buyers and sellers. Before we continue with the analysis, we're going to get into this article. It is coming from CNBC, and it is titled Home Depot beats earnings estimates, but sales slide as consumers pull back on big ticket buys. So Home Depot topped earnings expectations on Tuesday, but posted a 2% year-over-year sales decline as customers remained weary of big purchases and major projects. So they earned $4.65 versus $4.45 as Wall Street was expecting. And the revenue also beat, $42.92 billion versus $42.23 billion as expected on Wall Street. And you can see that their quarterly net sales have started to decline in 2023, rightfully so. We've seen interest rates go from really 0 to 5.25, 5 and three quarters, which puts a damper on anything and everything. Home Depot faces a more challenging scales backdrop as demand for do-it-yourself projects and contractors normalize after nearly 3 years of unusually high demand. The CFO told investors earlier this year that 2023 would mark a year of moderation as consumers return to more typical pre-pandemic patterns. On top of that, the retailer faces a weakening housing market, inflation, and consumer shifts to spending more on services instead of goods. Now, the housing market is actually pretty good. We still have a supply issue due to interest rates. Existing home buyers are not trying to sell and get into a higher interest rate mortgage. So the builders have been on fire, surprisingly. All right, this is just a graph of showing their net sales in Q2 compared to the previous 4 years. Comparable sales in the U.S. and company-wide declined by 2% in the fiscal second quarter, but that exceeded expectations for a 3.9% decline, according to FactSet. It marked the third straight quarter of falling comparable U.S. sales. Total customer transactions fell by about 2% compared with year-ago period, but the average ticket was roughly flat at $90.07. Home Depot said in its earnings release that the company's board of directors approved a $15 billion in-share buyback, which will take effect Tuesday. So that's pretty bullish for the stock. So let's go back to the charts, and we can see how price rallied off the lows of 280 back in May. However, for the past 4 weeks or 3 weeks, we've had sort of a pause in price. Rightfully so. You have all this selling pressure just above price at the 340 level. But this pause in price could be setting up as a buyer's level, meaning you have a rally in price, not the greatest, but a rally in price. Potentially you have a couple of doji candles, and then potentially you're going to have another rally in price. Now I say potential because, again, the last several times price came into this resistance band, the sellers won the battle over the buyers. But you can see the last several times you really haven't had a pause in price. Price shot straight up. And when price does this, well, then in this case there are no real buyers when price just shoots straight up, allowing the buyers to just push price straight down. In this case here, you have, say, a rally in price, you have a couple of basing candles. So if the sellers were to overtake the buyers, price is going to pause here, because that's where you have, say, equilibrium between, at the moment, equilibrium between the buyers and the sellers. Let's go down to the daily chart. Now, the daily chart is showing something a little different. For the last couple of days, you had these wicks implying selling pressure. And today you had an extended range red candle, which coincides with the broader market sell-off that we saw on Thursday. Now, this is the level that I'm watching on the shorter time frame. Price closes below that pivot low, and we could see further sell-off. Also, if you draw out the pattern, this is an M pattern, which is a bearish reversal pattern. So typically what happens is, if you do get a breach of the low, you'll get a retest before price continues lower. Now, typically August into September and October are not the best months for the stock market. So potentially prices will breach this low here and continue down. First test is going to be the 50-day moving average at 316, but the bigger test is going to be the 200-day moving average at 307. And that will somewhat coincide with support, resistance, resistance, support, support, support. So I will be watching Home Depot into tomorrow and into the next several weeks. The 324 will be a key level to pay attention to. A close below 324, we could see further downside risk in Home Depot. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, please like the video.